Today's video is all about Plume, the public blockchain for RWA5. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into this project, looking into some of the fundamentals such as the team, the tokenomics, the utility, and the overall value proposition, trying to figure out if this project has what it takes to make it to our portfolio. So you know what? Let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunity. And the question is Plume an opportunity? Guys, we're going to be doing a deep dive today, doing some research, looking into some of the fundamentals, and of course we want to dig deep. We want to figure out whether this project has what it takes. And obviously, you know, it's important that we know that those fundamentals are fully intact. We want to know what kind of risk we're taking, and obviously what kind of opportunity we have here to make some gains. We're going to be taking a very retail investor approach. We want to make sure this website and all the documentation provided by the team is up to par and up to point, so that we can, as retail investors, be comfortable into where we're allocating our capital. All right, guys, as I mentioned, we're going to use the website. So let's begin. Let's scrape through this website. As the landing page, it looks pretty interesting. We can see it's clear value proposition. It is a public blockchain for RWA5, real world assets finance, tokenized real world assets, distribute them globally, okay, and make them useful for native crypto users. Okay, so utility, enters the mix here. And as we keep on going down, we have a very clean website, a very clean website. We have some nice tabs at the front, at the top. We'll talk about their ecosystem. We'll talk about their overall community and the technology. We'll talk about their various, in their ecosystem in general, what they have to offer, and their development. If you're a developer, you have some information here, documentation, and so on, and Take a Flight program, which is, it provides the essential tools for developers, almost like an incubator or some assistance there for developers, which is good for ecosystem growth, obviously, and some resources regarding their brand and their blog for if you want to know a little bit what they're up to, and so on and so forth. So let's continue. Ecosystem, we'll talk about that in a second. I have all the tabs already open for us. Ecosystem, community, and technology. We can see that there's some data here, some stats. Again, it's on their website. I don't know if this is dynamic, where it's changing, or is it static. It seems very static. However, guys, I don't know. What I can say here is 18 million unique addresses. Okay. 280 million transactions. Okay, that's good. Okay, we're seeing, just keep in mind, I'm going to just lay out the framework here. The context is that this project is small. Okay, it's very small. It's very young as well. So we have to understand that this deep dive is going to be somewhat critical, because we're really analyzing and digging deep into a project that doesn't have much roots just yet. And this is what I have to be very clear about, that I might have bring up some information that is still in the works here, guys. Okay, so we'll talk about this more. Let's continue going down. 4 billion plus assets available, and 180 plus live protocols. This is I'm not sure what they mean by this 180 live protocols. I was trying to understand their mentality here. Without any real ecosystem that is established, I don't understand how they are coming up with live protocols like this. But again, we're going to try to keep it very simple here. We have to understand, again, that this project is still very young. Their ecosystem, so I think what they're referring to here is their external relationships, their external ecosystem, the industry's best projects and teams live on Plume. They're assuming that some of these projects are getting involved because of cross-chain interactions and so on, which of course brings in a lot of these relationships into play. So feel free to check out their ecosystem, and we'll definitely take a look at that in a second. That is probably one of the parts of this entire deep dive that I feel a little bit vague about and uneasy about. There's so many logos without without much information, and then we see a lot of different logos that, you know, maybe they're potentially great relationships, and I see them as great relationships, but not strategic partnerships per se, and not really part of their internal ecosystem. And for me, this is just a little bit vague, and the uncertainty there kind of bothers me. But again, we'll talk about this a little bit more. I don't want to get into too much detail there just yet. Community, they have about 1 million followers. I think that's under this is outdated. I think there's more than that on X at this current moment. I'll give you that stat, that data in a second. They got a decent community on both Discord and Telegram. I appreciate that. So that's valid. And goons, guys, goons. You guys know you're on the BTD crypto community. I also call you guys goons quite a bit, and I'm glad to see that we have another clan of goons on Plume, which is cool stuff there. Obviously, they got some NFTs. They're goons, and they have their own little culture going on, which I appreciate. It's always great to have that culture in a community. It makes them strong, it makes them, you know, united, and so on and so forth. So to see such a young project like this, it's really interesting, and of course a sign of strength. So I appreciate their social 100%. Really good stuff there. And then their technology, which for me, again, it's all about words and vocabulary. Now, remember guys, I've been doing about almost 100 deep dives every week. Every single week I do this. So, you know, I really don't see this as only technology. I see this as their internal ecosystem. Okay, this is a valid internal ecosystem. Obviously, in addition to that, it's their tech, it's what they offer, their software solutions. So primarily, of course, a blockchain, and we got to be clear about this. And I feel like I really need to be clear about this now, even though I would like to also talk about this in a bit. But their L1 blockchain is not live. So we're going to have a bit of confusion here. And this is part of the issue with this deep dive, is because their blockchain is non-existent. They are basically still a project built on Ethereum. So they're a token, not even a coin at the current moment. They're a token of Ethereum. So we have to understand that a lot of what we're going to be reading here tonight is forward thinking. It's not really the current state, and some of the documentation and some of the communication online about Lumia still resides in its current state, which is still an Ethereum-based project, while a lot of other documentation refers to Lumia as its own L1 with all these kind of features and this kind of stuff. But reality, it's not there yet. So there's a bit of a gray zone, and unfortunately, the documentation, even provided by the team, doesn't really give you that transition from current to future. They're focusing on the future, which is great. I'm not saying that's not the case. That's not good. It's just a lot of confusion out there at the current moment. That's the problem. Okay, so again, I'll do my best to navigate all of this. So these are projects, and we're going to talk about these projects as well. Just a little bit. I'm just going to let you know, out of all of these logos right here, sorry guys, out of all these logos, if I'm not mistaken, guys, none of these are ready to deploy at this current moment. They're all in progress. Okay, so coming soon. And you know, of course, we're in speculative space, right? We're thinking about, you know, where's Lumia going to go? Where's Plume going to go? If Plume has a strong future, Plume obviously is in speculation, and at the end of the day, you're getting a good price for the future, right? You got to be forward thinking. Now, based on where their technology is right now, their ecosystem, guys, it's not really established at the current moment, and I'll show you what I mean in a bit. Press, they got a blog, and they got some other publications on various outlets, you know, Fortune Crypto, The Block, CoinDesk, you know, these are all great. This is great to get that publicity out there. I appreciate it. I feel like their marketing is quite on point in comparison for their size. You know, in comparison to their size, I think they're doing the right thing from a marketing perspective. So whoever's in charge of marketing and actually executing the marketing plan, they're doing a great job. Okay, so I appreciate that. Backtest, backed by the best. Now, when I see this, these are VCs, guys. Majority of these, you can see capital everywhere. That means that they're generating some funding here. You know, so we have to understand that this is your competition as an investor. These are the people that you're competing with. They got it great entries. They got decent bags at cheap prices because they took risk really, really early on, and they deserve those allocations. But you have to understand they also deserve to take profit, and unfortunately, the way they can take profit is off the backs of people that buy later on at a higher price as exit liquidity. So I'm not saying that this is a negative thing, but this is the reality of business, right? You're getting an investor, someone that's going to pour capital in, allow Plume to do their thing, get listed on exchanges that cost money, to do a marketing that costs money, to whatever it is, hire this and buy this, and then all the subscriptions and everything that needs to be done, is funded. And these people that fund all these events and all these scenarios, eventually they're going to want to return on their investment. And as a venture capitalist, if you know exactly what their business and their overall focus is to get a return on their investment. They're not here for tech. They're not here for community. They're here for a return on their investment. That's their business, to provide equity or capital to where it's necessary, and then get that return as soon as possible so they can reduce their risk. It's almost like they're traders, if you think about it. Okay, so keep this in mind. It's just good. At least they got the liquidity. They got some, runway here to get things happening. Liquid, fully on chain, 24/7, DeFi ready, global, permissionless, and crypto native. Okay, there's a lot of words there. Okay, and then you're in the footer scenario where you see a lot of the different links that we've already talked about. Okay, so let's move on. That concludes the website. Very clean, very straightforward. I feel like it's a very forward-thinking idea. They're still claiming their season 1 of Plume airdrop, which means that you can get token allocation via airdrop. You can see this is very early for the native L1. So we're in that stage, okay, guys? Let's keep on going. Let's see what else we got. We got documentation, and I kind of, I try my best to get on, really get through all of this, and it was a good read for the most part. A lot of it was, again, forward thinking, on-ramp and off-ramp providers. They got a lot of good relationships with banks. These are very common. Alchemy Pay. These are common on and off ramps that exist, and so on. So I was just kind of digging through a lot of the categories that we got here. Now, about us, they want to focus on real world assets, right? And of course, that's a hot narrative, a very hot narrative. And I'm glad to see that they're a part of that narrative. And they're obviously leveraging the decentralized finance aspect of it. So allowing decentralized let's say exchange for real world assets, which is not a new idea. It is out there from many other projects that we've talked about in the past, but nonetheless it's a young narrative. There's a lot of opportunity still, tons of it. So this is great. This is good. A new project and a new narrative with lots of potential to attract capital. Plume brings real world assets into the digital economy, making them more accessible, liquid. So for those of you that don't know what RWAs are, it's real world asset, which basically means is that projects are going to try to tokenize a real world asset, its ownership, its existence, as far as ownership and deed and so on and so forth, and the ability to trade these physical assets via a blockchain and track those physical assets via a blockchain. And this is something that a lot of individuals are appreciating lately, given the fact that the benefits of a blockchain are definitely there. So why not have our digital assets on chain? Why not have our digital currencies on chain? Why not have our real world assets converted to be tracked on a blockchain as well? And this is what we're transitioning into, and being able to add a lot of those extra features from traditional finance into the non-traditional or DeFi space. Okay, so this is the value proposition overall. Their mission is to bridge the gap between traditional finance and crypto by aligning with genuine market demand and providing tools for compliance, transparency, and interoperability. This ensures both regulatory alignment and ease of use. This is exactly what I've been saying, guys. Okay, so this is good. Feel free to go through it, read it. It's going to give you a great introduction as to what they're trying to achieve, and this is how they kind of differentiate themselves. With over 180 apps and protocols in our ecosystem, Plume fosters innovation and collaboration, creating to thriving network interconnected projects. This is where things kind of get vague for me again. It's because of their interconnectedness that they assume that these protocols are within their ecosystem. Now, I again, it's all about language, and this is not the language that I use. It's the language that they use. And if you feel like the 180 apps and protocols are partnerships, that's great. But I would say these are great relationships. These are probably some sort of a degree of collaboration, and they're definitely interconnected as an EVM compatible. But even further, we would like to see how Plume goes forward with their L1 interconnectedness and all of that, because that's where the real value proposition comes in the future. Okay, so again, I'm going to keep that as a, okay, that sounds interesting. Of course, how is that exclusive to Plume itself of having all these interconnected relationships? Okay, this is a network, right? And if you think about it, when we're talking about interoperability, we're talking about bridging, we're basically interconnecting all these networks. So a lot of projects are going to have this value proposition, being a wide ecosystem and all of this. So, okay, I get it. I get what they're trying to really, bring to forward as a value. But a lot of blockchains have this value. A lot of projects have this same value. This is not something necessarily unique, using their language and their description. Just throwing it out there, okay, guys? But it's still good. Strong demand driven by community and partnerships. Again, I really would like to see these partnerships in clarity. There are some, I'll agree, there's some interesting connections there, and strategic partnerships, collaborations, key industry players, amplified demand. This is where I feel a little bit gray and uncertain, because again, I've done many deep dives, and I'm not saying Plume is doing this, but if a project wants to really highlight a key partnership, they need to reduce the amount of logos and really focus on those key partnerships. When you have so many logos, it dilutes the value of the actual strategic partnerships that have value. Okay, so this is the problem, especially with a young project such as Plume. Okay, so just think about that. Full stack technology, there's a lot of tech. We're going to talk about that, the interconnectiveness between assets, applications. Again, their L1 is going to bring that full stack scenario. And again, there's a little bit of, communication that still needs to be done regarding that full stack. In my opinion, it's still fresh, it's still new. Composability and RWA finance, again, enhancing asset utility. We emphasize the composability of RWAs, allowing assets to interact seamlessly across different DeFi applications and protocols. This is cross-chain. This is the reality of the current state of blockchain. A lot of blockchains want this interoperability, and this is a common factor across many projects. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of repetition here. The future of real-world assets with Plume, expanding the ecosystem, exploring innovation and partnerships, and building sustainable future for blockchain-based finance. Okay, good stuff. Like, this is very general. This is very okay, clean and clear. The roadmap includes this, but this is what is the roadmap? And we're going to move on to that. Let's go check out the roadmap. You'll see that the roadmap does have some dates, but very vague, guys. We're going from 2024 all the way. That's a whole year, and they describe their whole year in one sentence. They describe their whole year in one sentence. That's not a roadmap. It's not a roadmap, guys. This is not enough. And then I'm going to tell you why I'm being very critical here. And again, my job here of doing these deep dives is to really highlight where risk and reward lies with fundamentals. It's not about trading. It's not about price action. It's about risk and reward. If you think about where Plume is at within its stage of a life cycle, it is so early, and especially with regards to its L1, that, a roadmap is what's going to make you feel, feel a little bit secure. Although there's no guarantee of any of that, at least to know where the team is allocating their efforts. Right now, expand Plume's ecosystem to encompass a wide array of real-world asset classes and yield-generating use cases. Guys, that's the most vague and most pointless point ever. Like, there's no value there, unfortunately, and I have to be critical because I've seen many roadmaps. You guys know this. You've been following me here on the channel. I've been covering deep dives already for over almost 2 years now, and that's not a roadmap, and none of this is a roadmap. They're giving you an idea of where they want Plume to go, no doubt. It's clear. I appreciate that, no doubt. But as far as where are resources being allocated within the next year, even quarterly, explain that. Where we going with things is where it's going to make us feel comfortable to allocate our own capital to that agenda, right? What's the agenda here for the next year for Plume, given the fact that none of their ecosystem is currently deployed? And I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. What is being focused on? And it's almost like a trust-based system. Again, guys, we're here in speculative space. This is the crypto space. If anything, the last months have told you or taught you is that, faith-based systems do not work. Okay, so I would suggest that, maybe a little bit of clarity here as far as where are they putting their efforts quarterly, at least, where they putting their capital, where they putting their human capital, where they putting their marketing efforts, where, this and that. And that would be a lot more useful for me, especially as an investor, to go and look for, where I should be allocating my capital. I'm going to leave it at that. Feel free to read this future development and all of this. This sounds interesting, but it's not specific enough. And of course, being specific introduces a bit of accountability. And a lot of the teams, and trust me, as I know as a developer myself, I understand that accountability in the dev space is very, very, let's say, sometimes it doesn't work out, guys. It's not ideal, but quarterly is most likely, quarterly milestones can be achieved, and at least effectively be held accountable to them. Okay, so let's move on. Plume overview, architecture. This is where we get into a little bit of the tech, and this is where things kind of get a little bit forward thinking. So we have, the ARC tokenized engine. Guys, this is interesting. The ability to deploy or contracts or get tokens or get real-world assets tokenized. Nice and easily, frictionless, with accuracy and all of that. Enables users to tokenize assets quickly, affordably, while leveraging automated compliance checks. Okay, great. That's the overall thing, guys. That's great. We don't want friction. We want people to be able to use the tech easy. Okay, good stuff. Is it ready? No, it's not there. This ARC engine is not out yet, according to their website. Again, I'm going to show you some of the details in a second. Smart wallets. Okay, they got their wallet. Is it ready? Again, benefits. Plume's wallets enables users to access advanced DeFi functionalities, but cater towards real-world assets as well. So that's bonus. That's where they want to. What they want to do is have a complete ecosystem that is going to cater to the trading and the DeFi of real-world assets, and that's very clear as to what they want to achieve based on all these ecosystem projects that they got here. Data Highway, Nexus, this for me is quite bullish. I appreciated it. When I was doing my deep dive, I was on their Discord saying, guys, this is great. I like this idea. I like what they're building. I like their focus. And then you go and look at where they're at with this. And again, another project that is not out yet. So with Nexus, users can access accurate, up-to-date information for use in prediction markets, lending protocols, and other real-world asset-related DeFi applications. Guys, this is an oracle that caters towards real-world assets. Guys, good. I find that interesting. We have currently oracles out there that focus on price feeds for DEXs, and they offer speed, they offer this, they offer that. We know all the major oracles, but Nexus is focusing on real world assets related DeFi applications. Guys, this is interesting. Again, a good value proposition, and that's it. That's basically what they got going on here. What I just want to address is that a lot of this is forward thinking. Okay, so let's move on. Core features, built-in AML compliance, liquidity and trading support, data integration. Again, a little bit more features that they got, and the real world DeFi toolkit for developers and ecosystem and all of that kind of stuff. So feel free to read this. Audits and security, a lot more details, completed audits, and this is obviously good for our safety. Plume chain audits, they got Arbitrum, bridge audits. We know that bridges usually are weak points in a system. Let's say a lot of the times they of the past they did get basically there's vulnerabilities there, and exploits could definitely happen, but lately we've been having it under control. We see a lot of these bridges being audited and making sure they're ready, and then the wallets have been audited. So this is good for security and ongoing commitment to transparency and so on and all of that. So good stuff. And then we have another idea here. Okay, which again gets me back to this idea as where their focus, what they want to be, is a full-on one-stop shop ecosystem for real-world assets. They want their own stablecoin, Plume USD. Okay, which is also interesting. They want it to be fully backed and deeply liquid, Plume and all this kind of stuff. So they want to have a stablecoin which is pegged. Plume USD maintains a peg with the US dollar, backed by Reserve, the world's most trusted stablecoin. So stablecoins backing stablecoin, fine, and that's that. So I don't know. I don't know what the real reason to have this for, really. If they're using other stable coins to peg, it's just to keep basically an incentive to keep the capital within their own ecosystem, and probably provide incentives for people to hold their stable coins through via APY or something like that. We got to look at the mechanisms, obviously. Real world use cases here. We have Nest, Cultured, Solera, lending and borrowing. You can see that there's a lot of cases across multiple categories and different fields of DeFi. And these are the projects that, are probably going to be leading that within the ecosystem going forward. And then minting Plume in USD, bridges, and so on. So there's a little bit of information here on their stablecoin. If you appreciate that, that is definitely going to be one of their product offerings within their internal ecosystem. Okay, and then we talked about ARC. The ARC idea again. It's going to be an application that allows you to deploy real-world assets or tokenize the assets easily. Asset tokenization. This gets into a little bit more about the ARC. So I'm not going to get into too much detail because that's part of their tech that they have to offer. It's not necessarily Plume as a token, as a crypto based currency. This is an application that technically, if it needed to be, it doesn't even need ARC doesn't even need Plume as a token. This is an application that can be done Web 2 if necessary. But obviously the integration of Plume and potential stablecoin and all of that, and the ability to use this application using their own currencies and so on is obviously great. So take a look at it. If you like what they're trying to do here with ARC, and I think that it's great. I think that the majority of us understand the value about frictionless transaction or frictionless, interactions or experiences using tech, especially new speculative tech, because ultimately we'll get a lot of new users using the technology, and then of course mass adoption and ecosystem growth, and then price goes up. That's basically what we want to wait for. So, and again, the smart wallets, a bit of depth within those categories that we already talked about, the Plume smart wallet and so on, and the background. And I'm not going to get into too much detail here because we're going to look at the individual pages in a second quickly. Plume Nexus is the data highway. The Oracle, if you guys know what an Oracle is, it's pretty self-explanatory, and these are one of the reasons why I'm not going to get into too much detail here. But you can see Supra, one of the hotter topics in the last little while, as their own in-house Oracle. They have their own in-house Oracle as well, and they have a little bit of a relationship or partnership happening here with them, according to them. So there's a bit of a collaboration, which is very healthy, especially in cross-chain, and interoperability mindsets out here in the crypto space lately. So good stuff altogether. And then for developers, there's DevNet and Glossary and some other things for developers to get all involved and confident about. So that's that. I think this gave us the opportunity to really wrap our minds behind, what Plume is really trying to achieve here. Okay, so introducing Plume, let's get into some of the tokenomics, because that helps us understand, okay, why do we need a Plume coin or token? At this case, in this current moment, Plume is still an Ethereum based contract. Okay, they don't have their own L1, they're still using the Ethereum network and all of that. So we got to be real about what's happening here, and this is the current state, right? So their token allocation of Plume, again, when they go mainnet, I guess this is what they want to achieve, which I have a little bit of an something to say about this. I don't really appreciate the token allocation, but of course you guys make your own decisions. Ultimately, when I see ecosystem, community ecosystem 46%, and you can see the largest portion of the token supply, which is 59%, is dedicated to fueling the growth and development of the ecosystem. Okay, so we're looking at 46, and and it comes out to 59% when you connect the foundation. Okay, so this whole section, which is significant. Now, if you look at exactly what the details behind this, meanwhile, you got 20% allocated to early contributors, which is You guys know what that means. They got airdropped early. That's your competition, guys. They got in at early prices. They'll sell on you as soon as possible. And you have to understand that that risk is still there, especially if they're not vested still. If they're locked, then we know that they're going to get unlocked slowly. So we're going to have to look into that. 21% early backers. Again, another sell pressure event. Another more sell pressure between core contributors. Obviously, are people that are going to sell as, you know, they're working. They need to get paid. They need to eat. They have families. They got, you know, they want to earn, and they're going to probably sell when they feel they need to. And this is how it works, guys. And early backers are usually there just for the gains anyway. And foundation is technically a portion of the capital that should be allocated to a DAO. And this is what's interesting, is because they refer to the foundation and they refer to some sort of organization that's a decentralized organization, but there's nothing regarding it. There's no establishment of the DAO. There's no nothing of that. And if you kind of look at what's really going on here, you can see that a good portion of this, which is the 59%, goes to community and ecosystem, ecosystem grants, and Plume Foundation, and then the community airdrop. Okay, the community airdrop, those tokens are already out there. It's only 7%, but still, you risk that 7% dilution. I get it. Just understand. And when you look at the price, we didn't run up yet, so those people might take profits sooner than expected. That's that. And then the foundation, the Plume Foundation, you know, the operation of Plume Network Foundation, which was responsible for overseeing the research and development, growth, and decentralization of the Plume network. So the Plume Foundation, technically, based on all the other deep dives that I've done before, this should be governed by a DAO. This should be some governance happening here. And does that mean that the governance it also includes capital? Like, are we giving the foundation some capital? And we can see that there should be ultimately a bit of percentage for the foundation as some working capital to make some decision on where it gets placed. But as there is no DAO, and especially I don't know how much of it is going to be going there. What I'm just basically trying to say is that this 59% should be split up and should be more clear as to who's controlling these tokens as they get emitted into circulation. It's not a faith-based system here, guys. We need to be very critical as to, you know, who is actually going to make the decisions on this capital, because it's your capital that's going to be distributed here. You have to understand that community and ecosystem. I'm more than anybody, I do appreciate community and ecosystem growth. On all my deep dives, I always focus on how are they going to build an ecosystem, because without ecosystem, there's no use case, there's no utility for the token or the coin, and there's no users. So what's the point? So I like the fact that they have it here, but how are they going to be allocated and what percentage, and who's making that decision? Is it the foundation or the DAO, or is there a marketing manager, a centralized identity that's calling the shots? That's what I want to know, and I'm not really crazy about faith-based systems. Okay, so that's that, guys. Make your own critical decisions here. Do your research. Again, if there's any details that I'm missing here that's not spelled out on this document, obviously feel free to share in the comment section. But again, if it's not on paper, if it's not on their Git book, which it should be, by the way, this is a blog post. I have another issue about that. You shouldn't be, this formal documentation should be on their Git book, clearly stated and updated and kept current. Now this was deployed obviously in January. It's not too old. Okay, it's not too old, but it shouldn't be a blog post. Okay, guys, that for me is not acceptable, and it should be a working document. Anyway, distributed for early backers. Okay, distributed for core contributors. We know these are the devs, the people working on the network, driving the engineering. They got to get paid. You can't deny that. That's something that needs to happen. Now, another thing that you will have to really understand is the aggressive unlocks and the release that's going to happen until January 2028. Now, you might say we have a lot of time. I get it, and it's true. You got a lot of time, but the reality is it's significant incline of tokens being released in the next little while until we reach right up here. So this is going to put a lot of sell pressure, and this is what I got to say about this. If we get a proper cycle where we get a bull run, an altcoin season, and Plume does run, guys, take profit. Why? Because based on this aggressive emission schedule, there's going to be a lot of people in profit. that have gotten a bunch of tokens, and those individuals could cause the price to retrace 95% in a bear market. And it's nothing against Plume, because we know, based on previous cycle, a lot of projects did that. Almost all, 99% of all projects came down between 80 to 95%, which, you know what, based on this aggressive release schedule and the current stage that Plume is in its life cycle, guys, it's very, very risky to expect this thing to hold its price through a bear market. So this is where we're at right now. The emission schedule is very, very aggressive. And token utility, so what is the token used for? Okay, gas fees? Not really. At the moment, it's not the case. This is very deceiving at the current moment. Not, completely deceiving in the sense that they're forward thinking. When it becomes an L1, when it comes its own blockchain, yeah, it will be the case. But at the current moment, it's all, the gas fees are all Ethereum. And when are we going mainnet? When is the L1 going to come out? There's no roadmap, so we don't know. And there's no commitment to at least give us a time frame. So the reality is this is all speculation, and and because of this, you have to attribute some risk. How does this sound to you with regards to risk to reward? Right now, they're talking about a Plume gas fee, which would give Plume tons of utility, the ability to earn, and ability to get those gas fees and keep those gas fees within the network. At the current moment, the way things are, and this is all we have to go by, is as long as we're transacting on the Ethereum network, all those gas fees, all they are doing is improving the utility of Ethereum and providing that liquidity or that earning capability to the Ethereum network. So this is something that we have to think about. Now, is their new chain going to be an L2, which is fine, because then they could still use Plume? That's totally fine. Or is it going to be a completely new blockchain that they're developing from scratch with its own consensus, with its own architecture and tech stack, and so on and so forth? It doesn't matter at this point. What matters to me is that there's a lot of gray and ambiguity with regards to where it is now, where it's going to be, and when that is going to happen. Because when you're reading this, you're assuming that it is already in the current state, and it's not, and we don't know when. So this is where I feel a little bit uneasy. So the governance, again, more talk about governance. There's no such thing as a DAO that I can find any documentation on that there is governance right now for the Plume, so that's something that you got to consider. Staking and delegation, of course, if you're staking, you'll get rewarded, and that's totally fine and acceptable. That's a very common utility for a coin that is deployed on its own blockchain, of course, to drive the network and obviously provide some incentive to keep the network afloat and provide that liquidity. Ecosystem liquidity, again, that's part of what it is. If you're staking up, you provide collateral and you deserve some reward. Okay, so this is very typical. I appreciate this, but it doesn't really represent the current state. I would say at the current moment, you're providing liquidity, and if at best, maybe staking, if that's provided at the current moment. So guys, you got to be really critical right now, or at least try to figure out where they're at with things, because they're not really telling us. So you got to have to figure out where we're at. Now, with the launch of Plume, which, again, there's no clear indication of when, the foundation reaffirms its commitment to the Plume community and an ecosystem, enabling hundreds of applications and bringing trillions in real-world assets on chain. Again, guys, L1, real-world asset chain, we don't know its commitments, and all this is trying to reassure you that everything's good. And I respect them for that. But this is not a faith-based system, guys. It's got to be, coded. It's got to be in writing. It's got to be out there. And even still, we've seen many projects that have all of that and still don't follow through. So imagine, the risk to reward here. Okay, just throwing it out there. I'm not trying to, FUD here, but at the end of the day, we just got to be honest. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the tokens that are being unlocked. The biggest, not the biggest, but the next categories to come into play here, which are the early backers and the core contributors, are coming up in a few months, in 140 days, which means that in about 140 days, we can get individuals that are selling based on wanting to earn. Right, the rest of the sales, like the foundation, we would like to assume that they're getting tokens, and the foundation is allocating those tokens in a responsible fashion to upkeep the Plume let's call it a business, because that's what it is, right? Business as usual. And the community and ecosystem, in the same fashion, we assume that the team is getting these tokens and they're doing the right thing with these tokens and allocating them accordingly to benefit the Plume network. So this is complete faith-based system right now. But then again, we have the early backers, which, you know what, there is no faith-based system here. Those early backers, they could do whatever they want as soon as they get unlocked. They could sell, and the core contributors as well. So this is what we're in about 140 days. Now, if you align what could happen in the next 140 days, just expect that maybe even these individuals and maybe even these that got the early airdrop are not selling at the current moment. Because why? If you have conviction that we're in a bull run and an altcoin season is around the corner, this could be possibly the best opportunity ever to hold on to these tokens and wait for the run to happen, and then start selling. And that's why I say, guys, be careful with how much tokens you save for multi-cycle. Okay, that's that. Let's move on. I went on chain because this is what we got at the current moment. Of course, it's an Ethereum based project still, and I went online and tried to figure out the reality of tokenomics. I went on CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap, and there was a bit of a discrepancy, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to play games here. I want to go on chain and just literally see what's going on here. The on-chain market cap, this is it. Okay, so, and we have the circulating supply right here, right? It's black and white. Let's just make sure that this is all up to date. Should I refresh? Let's see if it refreshes properly. Okay, so this is the circulating supply market cap according to the current circulating supply, right? And this is the max, right? There's 10 billion tokens out there. There's 300 million tokens in circulation. So there's a bit more that need to be emitted. We know that it's a very young project and so on. Current price is at about 16 cents. We were at about 14 when I started doing the deep dive. So more or less, it went up a little bit, which is great, good stuff. But the structure on the price chart is still there. Now, what I really want to focus on, number one, that this is the most valid data you're going to get, on-chain data, no matter what CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap says. And I think they're very similar in numbers anyway. Okay, so on-chain data is king, no matter what the team says, because even the team could provide some clarity with this, because there's ambiguity everywhere with regards to their tokenomics. And I made that clear even on the Discord, and I couldn't really get real clarity anyway. But let's move on from that. The reality is that we have 50% of the tokens held into this contract. It's a contract address, right? And I really don't know whose contract, what part of the contract is. Usually multi-sig wallet of some sort, for the emission of the rest of the tokens, and this one too. And this one could be for a foundation, or this one even could be for foundation. And for true transparency and clarity, the token addresses should be on their Gitbook and explain what each token address is. And then as soon as you get rid of the top three, which hold a significant amount of the tokens, you start to see that, a regular distribution is here. We have some Bybit wallets, BitGet, Gate, Mexi. So the major concern here is who do these wallets belong to? Are they the foundation wallets? Are they in multi-sig? Who's in custody? Whose custody are these wallets are in? Are they going to be responsible for the emissions of these tokens? That's the reality. And if they are locked up in a investing, at the end of the day, they're already pre-minted, they're already out there, they're just in a locked schedule release. So we want some clarity there, guys. Give us the token address, which should match up here, and explain where they are, who's in control, and so on and so forth. If you want people to feel comfortable, that's the type of clarity you need to provide. Okay, so that's that. Let's move on. And then back to their internal ecosystem. I'm just going to throw this out there again. Maybe I should have done this earlier, but I do this live. No edits, none whatsoever. And all I do is try to show you what I found. Here we are, going live soon. Bring, anything on chain. ARC. Okay, it's going live soon. Very still new, not much happening here. Then we move on. Plume Passport. Okay, Plume Passport is smart wallet design. Okay, they got a design, full control. I don't see anything. I see some integrations. Get rich, early access to check in, available soon. So it's not out yet. Okay, so okay, coming soon. Plume stablecoin coming soon. Then we keep on going, going live soon. Did I do this one already? I think I did. This is ARC. Okay, I did this one in multiple tabs. Sorry about that, guys. And then we have real world asset provider, the Oracle, coming soon, coming soon, coming soon. So the reality is that there's a lot coming soon, and there's nothing really out there right now. A lot of good ideas, and they got their Ethereum network contract. They're raising liquidity. They're trying to get some liquidity staked up in there, so that there's an active economy happening before they go mainnet, which is fine. And this is a typical thing, guys. It's not just Plume that does this. They go on Ethereum, get things going, and then slowly come up with their mainnet after, whether it be an L2 or something else, who knows, right? Ultimately, that's the plan. Now, this is where I would say, I'm not gonna spend too much time here. And even as I was doing the deep dive, it's like, information overload. I'm not a private investigator here. I do my best with what is provided. And when I start scrolling through all these logos, I can, based on its current state, on its size and everything, I'm like, this is a lot of small projects, which is great. Relationships, let's call them relationships. Let's give them benefit of the doubt that these are very good relationships to keep within the space, within the industry. And networking within the industry is great. Tons of logos. MetaMask, this is what bothers me, guys. Now, again, this is why I'm keeping it very neutral and very what it is, what it is. Do your own research, do your own thing. When I see a partner, MetaMask partner or ecosystem, it bothers me, because MetaMask is not a partner to anybody. It's not. It's a wallet, guys. Just because they may have integration with MetaMask, it's not a partnership. So I'm going to keep it as it is. And ultimately, the fact that they are supported by MetaMask is great. It's a good relationship. It's a great thing. But if it was a strategic partnership that we needed to know about, they need to provide that very clear and exclude all the noise, all the other ones that may not be strategic partnerships. Now, if they're going to call them relationships, again, it's all about language as well, and the way Celestia, how does that work here? With Celestia and okay, Axelar, interoperability, that may be the case, but that might be super bullish, but then you have, other things that may not be. So less is more. Is this Beam? This is not the game. This is the other one, the on-ramp. Okay, and so on and so forth. So you can see submit a project, ecosystem. I don't know, guys. Again, I'm not going to be critical here. Lots of good logos. Have fun scrolling through all of this and digging deeper on all of them. It could be some of them could be great, amazing. Some of them maybe not so much. But this is a bit of a problem, because it's hard to prop chain, another real world asset narrative, RW finance, a lot of RWA type of projects here. And small projects, of course, and it's still good, still fine. Supra, it's a small project-ish, but very right now very popular and buzzing right now, and a full-on ecosystem as well, but not just focused on real-world asset. They're mostly, I think, the relationship has to do with the concept behind the Oracle. So again, research, Trust Wallet, another wallet, guys. Again, move on. Their blog, at least they got a blog with some good communication out there with their goons. They got some news happening there. They're trying to keep up to date with giving their community what they need to get bullish, which I appreciate, guys. This is good, and it's quite active. Now, I don't know when their last post was. It would be nice to see these dates to see when to see if they're active, but it seems to be that they're populating and providing some information. But a lot of this stuff is coming soon. We got SIDA, Stork. We got some partnerships, Symbiotic, another partnership, Uniblock, Fireblocks. You got some partnerships, some relationships. This is what I would like to call relationships, and it definitely for their side. Aether, another DPIN protocol, good stuff. Relationships, lots of good relations. At least they're well networked within the industry, and bonus for that. I appreciate that. Okay, so that we're talking about socials here. They got a lot of. They're very active. Their marketing, as I mentioned, is pretty on point. They have 1.1 million followers, so more than what they have on their website. The website, they only claim 1 million. They have actually more than that, so kudos to them. That's quite a bit of following. And they have some some cross-chain, on-chain type of relationship being here, partnership, a strategic partnership. Again, look into it to see how that works and what they're actually building together to be considered a partnership. Videos and different bit layer labs, again, more repetition, another bit VM, bit layer, another bit layer promotion, and so on. Let's see what else they got. What's hot? At least let's see what's going on here with what's hot. Real assets, okay. People, useful, stable, okay. A little bit of a retweet there from another person's post. Plume unlock stable real yields. Okay. Again, this is future thinking. For years, crypto yields have worked the same way. Okay, so interesting reading into that. The Forge, so they got some good relationships, and again, very active here on socials, and I like their design. Their community looks interesting. Everything looks good with regards to marketing. I think their marketing is completely on point, completely. So let's take a look at the team. The team is another aspect of the project that I'm also quite interested in, because it's a large team. Okay, it's a large team and a very qualified team. Okay, so this is something, again, we reduce risk by looking at these factors, right? There are some things that we may not like, and some things that might be a little bit, maybe a little bit of improvement. But then you got to look at the other side of things. Like, you got a strong team with lots of individuals, lots of different talent, and I don't have the time to go through all of them, obviously, but there's a lot of them, right, guys? As I scroll now, if you look at the founder, CEO, and so on. We got this dude right here, University of California, Berkeley, a very intelligent, well-qualified individual, business development lead at Binance, head of business development at Swim.io, corporate development ventures at Coinbase. Like, what else do you want? Like, this guy's got what it takes. He knows the industry. He's been involved in the industry, and he's been involved in investment banking as well. So, like, there's nothing more that you could really ask from a leader. He's young. He's been hustling. He's got the back experience. He's got everything you need. So, what do we got to do? You got to move on and say, okay, check. I'm bullish. That's good. Another dude here, co-founder and CTO of Plume. Let's see what he's got. Let's see what he's about. We got, of course, he's here full time. Plume Network. Beluga full-time. I'm not engineering, software engineer at Robinhood, University of British Columbia. What else do you want? Like, there's no more talent that you can get from an individual. Young, hustled, and well-versed within the space. Move on. That's all you could say. All right. And then you have Chris Yen, co-founder, CEO of Plume. Now, this individual is quite interesting because I really don't see much of a tech background, which is not necessary, but it seems like what he is the business side of things. Now, I could be wrong because there's not much details regarding his background other than, investor and so on, and we have a scale venture partners and a little bit of venture capital type of stuff happening here. So it could be the case. It could be the financial muscle. Startups, did some investing. You know what I mean? Like, he's probably just the brains behind the business operations and finance, and that kind of stuff. So obviously that is necessary and good. Let's move on. And then we got some other stuff, capital markets, tokenized, building, open source. So we got some more talent here. Full-time agent protocol, poet network co-founder, and advisor, so person that is definitely involved, Harvard University, and so on. So we got some talent here, guys. I'm not gonna get into that much detail. I think that was enough. Again, do your own research, but the team is bullish. In my opinion, it's bullish. I think the team, if there's some characteristics of a team that you're looking for to feel confident in, I think they have what it takes. All right, guys. So just consider that. All right, guys. I know you're here to also talk about price action, but before we do that, I'm going to share with you the infographic that I do release with all my deep dives that can be found on the socials, on the Discord, and on X, of course. And I'll post that as soon as we are done here, and we'll do a quick recap on what I think. Now, guys, just keep in mind that a lot of what I'm going to be saying here and summarizing is based on the fact, where they're at in their product, right? It could be an amazing opportunity, and you can almost look at these numbers and these facts as a glass half empty or a glass half full. Now, just imagine if all these numbers were 10 out of 10. This would be mature. This would be done. Most likely, it's already reached its maturity phase as an investment. Now, of course, its ecosystem, I mentioned, a lot of the things that they have is still in progress. There's nothing launched yet. There's nothing really there, and this is what bothers me. Now, I'm not going to be so absolute. I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to say the majority of their ecosystem is still being deployed. Now, are you going to wait until everything is done? You're going to wait until everything is all polished and ready to go for market and product market fit is ready and everything? You're taking less risk. And if that's the case, you're going to get less reward. So this is important. It's important right now to do this deep dive and think about it as an opportunity of risk to reward. Because if you're taking a bit of risk and you like what they're trying to achieve here and the reward is there, then maybe taking a bit of risk, given that some of these things are not tied up, it's possibly an opportunity. So you got to really understand what I'm going here with, and the numbers, what they really represent. They really represent the opportunity for growth, and at the same time, understanding that there's still risk involved because they're not where they are saying they are going to be yet. Again, guys, it's tough. It's tough. Okay, so let's continue. The utility, staking and delegation, and ecosystem liquidity. I think this is something that they're achieving at the current moment, but more utility on mainnet. When they come out with their L1, there's going to be a lot more utility, and that's something that we got to be really clear about, because a lot of the things that they do discuss in their documentation is about when Plume goes mainnet, when Plume goes L1. Now, this is the thing that we have to understand. Are we going to wait for that to happen? Are we going to wait for everything to line up and be fake, and then all of a sudden it becomes a 10 out of 10? Is that going to be the case? Again, I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller, but I can tell you at the current level, we still have a lot of work to do. Okay, so roadmap. This is something that can be improved, and this could be something that could improve even our confidence in these two categories. And they have to understand that without a roadmap, you're just leaving us out there to just read and think and hope and dream that it could happen without at least giving us your plan. Where are you going with things? How is this going to be happen? When do you plan on giving at least a little bit of a window or a time frame of some sort? And then again, I understand how the development field works, where milestones don't, or sometimes they don't get achieved, and then price fluctuates like crazy, emotions fly like crazy, and in engineering it's not always like that. It's things happen and you need to kind of overcome, and you got to go back to the drawing board a couple of times. It doesn't mean that you give up. It doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means that's the process. And some people, especially if they don't understand the industry, don't understand the process. But then again, who cares about the process? This is about, raising capital. This is about building an ecosystem. This is about building a community. This is about having a project where you expect people to deploy capital into an investment. It doesn't matter about engineering. It matters about the final look of a business. Is it ready for product market fit? Now, roadmap wise, unfortunately, they don't provide anything. There's no time frames, no information about when things are going to be coming out, and so on and so forth. And there's no accountability, and that's a sign of weakness from a retail investment perspective. We have to understand that it's a sign of weakness. Whether you agree or not, it doesn't matter. The reality is that if you're not willing to commit to what you're doing and give us an idea of where you're going and when you're going to achieve it, it's a sign of weakness. Okay, so we got to be clear. The team, at the end of the day, strong team, large team, software, business, and tech backgrounds, 10 out of 10. So where it's positive, it's positive. And we got to be clear about that. 10 out of 10 team right there for me. Socials, 9 out of 10. I give it pretty good. There was a couple things, but really overall 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10, really good stuff. They got lots of followers. They got everything. They're up. The only thing is their posts are coming down a little bit, but still, guys, it's only 2.6%. And we know the market has been a little bit rough in the last little bit, so we'll give it to them there. And a little bit too much repetition on X. It could be felt a bit spammy, but still okay. And their marketing is on point. I appreciate it, and they're doing good. They got way more followers on X. I think that's a typo. They got 1.1 million followers on X, which is quite a bit, and I appreciate that. Okay, so that's a good one. Let's keep on going. We got tokenomics, which is good, which is not so good. Oh, sorry guys, it's not so good. And the reason why is because there's a lot of ambiguity there. The unlocks are aggressive in the first little while. Yes, it's on a vesting schedule, but they're very aggressive. VCs will get unlocks in 140 days. Yes, we got time. 41% are allocated to early stakeholders, and which I coupled together because they are early stakeholders, whether they are part of the dev team or investors, early investors. It doesn't matter. They're going to that's the risk of dilution right there. As soon as that happens, 41% of the tokens could be risk basically make some sell pressure in the market, which is not a good thing. And then you have the token allocation with 59% that is, up there where individuals of the team, could basically do what they want with them, and there's no clarity there. I'm not crazy about the tokenomics, and it could just be a matter of communication. It just could be a matter of, making it clear on where those tokens are going and who's in control of them. Guys, decentralization comes in many places, from many avenues, right? We decentralize the blockchain via consensus. We decentralize the organization via DAO. We decentralize capital via distribution. There's lots of forms of decentralization. And when you look at, token distribution, it doesn't seem very decentralized. And that kind of bothers me. And although there's a vesting schedule, it's very aggressive and it's not very clear. So for me, a bit of an issue here right now. I'm very hesitant here, and that's where, for me, that's the risk comes in. Now, if you look at the relationships, they very clearly identified the relationships that they had here in this market. And I really do put a lot of these relationships as interoperability relationships, given the fact that, cross-chain, the concept of cross-chain is very popular in the last little while. So, 10 out of 10 for having tons of relationships and acknowledging that there's lots of relationships across various blockchains and different use cases. But again, those relationships, some of them are wallets, some of them are, ones that maybe are not so strategic, and just, have some connection there, and they put them on their list. And for me, that kind of bothers me, but there's still a lot of good relationships, guys. I give them 10 out of 10 because for a young project, they have a lot of connections within the industry. So I appreciate that. Supra, SIDA, Symbiotic, Uniblock, and much more. Go check them out. Go check it out. Dig deep. If you want to spend a couple hours there going through all those logos, you'll realize that some of them maybe not be as strong, but some of them are. Some of them are small companies, some of them are bigger, and this is where things kind of get a little bit for interpretation, but at least those relationships are there, and that's positive. And then the exchanges, it could be a good thing and a bad thing here. We don't see any Coinbase and Binance. The heavyweights are not there, but the rest of them, Bybit is large, Mexi is getting big, BitGet, Gate, these are all combined. This provides a lot of liquidity out there. We know that, and Bybit being very big as well. The thing is that most of us use Coinbase and Binance as a measurement, as a measuring stick. If you achieve that status, you're 10 out of 10 pretty much. But then if you achieve that status, you also know that after that there's no more future as far as trading exchange listings. A lot of people trade exchange listings. So if there's no more exchanges to get listed on, you're 10 out of 10. There's no more opportunity. There's no more growth. There's no possibilities there other than, just make sure you don't get delisted. That's the only other thing after that, right? So it's still a little bit of an opportunity there. I think there's a healthy balance of liquidity out there in the market if you want to trade it. But at the same time, if you get listed on Binance or Coinbase, you can expect a nice little rocket to the upside with regards to price. Okay, so let's consider that. Tokenomics, again, the supply, when they go mainnet, they want to have 2 billion in circulation. This is part of the documentation. Max is going to be 10 billion. And again, this is a transitionary phase from their current blockchain or their current contract to their own L1. And there's a bit of ambiguity, and the market cap did change in the last little while since we did go up in price a little bit in the last couple of days. Guys, I do my best to try to give you the most current. But as you know, especially with small market caps, things are very volatile and the price changes, but it's right around 15 cents, 16 cents today, but still doing pretty good and holding steady. We'll look at the price chart in a second. Now, my quick summary, my verdict, my overall idea here and what we should be considering with Plume. There's a couple things. Number one, it's a real world asset narrative, hot narrative. We know that. It's very popular nowadays, something that we got to consider. Ethereum network, okay, might not be the best idea currently, and I got to make it, this deep dive is about what it is right now. Currently, it is on the Ethereum network. We can imagine that gas fees are according to the Ethereum network and so on. And the future is going to change. The thing is when. We don't know. We'll be patient. We'll see what happens. But ultimately, at the current state, it's still deployed on ETH. And it is USA. Basically, it's America-based, which is great. We know that, you know, politically and obviously eventually economically, this could be a good thing for US crypto-based projects. So we're keeping an eye on that concept. Now, top two wallets are contract wallets, but not defined. We don't know those wallets and who they belong to and what's going on with them. That would provide so much clarity and so much confidence into what's going on with the token distribution. Mention of a DAO, but no implementation of governance yet. Maybe that's something that they plan on doing when going mainnet, of course. But with, you know, contracts and vesting schedules and all that, we want to know how decentralized we really are and all the facets of decentralization in a crypto project. 59% will be in full control of the team during vesting. So basically, they will flow through the team somehow. And eventually the team members, I guess, again, I don't know how this is going to happen. Are they going to vote, or is there a board of directors? Is there one person? How is this going to work? It's a lot of capital that's going to be flowing into that category, that one category that we talked about that has a lump of capital flowing through it. How is that going to be distributed, and who's making the decisions on how that's going to be distributed and when? Because once it get on the vesting happens, it gets unlocked, it gets put into a wallet. When does that get spent, and by who? Who makes the decisions there? That's part of the issue. Now, we know the team seems very qualified, but again, is it a faith-based system that we have here? I want info. I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to play hard to get with my capital, and I want info. Gas fees, this is not the case at the current moment. They do mention something about gas fees. I think that's something that needs to be very clear here, that currently it's Ethereum-based, and the governance, there's no evidence of a DAO at the current moment, so it's still in the works. I just want to make that clear, because DAO, again, reduces risk via decentralization. Lots of tech in the pipeline. Ecosystem is still super young. There's a lot of tech in the pipeline which could make this thing amazing and definitely flourish to the next level. But again, we're waiting to see where it goes, because there's no roadmap and there's no clarity regarding that. Okay, when things are going to be happening, at least the time frame. For its size and its connections within the industry, it's great. The networking is good. They got lots of partnerships, and they got some great relationships out there, so that's good. And documentation, there's a bit of an issue, because a lot of it represents the future implementation, but not the current state. And unfortunately, we are still in the current state, guys. We're still here. We're still looking at Plume in its current state. When does the next level come? And until then, all we have is the current state. So I'm going to have to stay there until we get some more clarity about the future. And currently, I'm going to use Ondo as an example. Okay, I'm just going to put Ondo out there because it's one of the major players out there. I'm going to give Plume the benefit of the doubt that it's going to try to attract enough liquidity or market cap in order to compete with one of the top dogs out there, which is Ondo, let's say. And it might do some great stuff there. 10x, 11x, maybe hit $1.50, maybe $2. That's very possible. And I think based on its narrative and the fact that it's USA based and all of this, it could be definitely the case. Guys, I still give it 6 out of 10 because it's all very speculative, and it's about risk to reward. Okay, so trying to be very honest and transparent here about Plume. It seems to be interesting, seems to be good. Just allocate the correct amount of capital according to what you think is risky and what you think is rewarding, and that would give you a nice healthy allocation for your portfolio. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts, so let's take a look at what's going on with the Plume chart. At the end of the day, Plume is not doing anything. However, it is an opportunity. When you see this type of price action, guys, you got to ask yourself, what are these goons doing here into this level? Are they buying and accumulating for a potential expansion, or are they waiting for a dip to buy the dip at lower levels? Let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. So, like I always say, guys, you know, there's people here, there's goons in here, and the goons in here are doing something. It's not just the Plume goons. We don't shout out to the Plume goons. They're definitely strong and definitely healthy. That community is definitely healthy. But the goons here on BTD Crypto are wondering, you know, what should we be doing? Are we joining the goons? Are we combining, you know, our ideas here across the market that maybe we should be accumulating here? A couple things that I want to address is the fact we're in a consolidation without any expansion. And this is something that's very important because the calm before the storm type of idea does come into play. Now, we can include wicks as best as we can, or we can just kind of, you know, be artistic the best we can. I'm just going to put a line here to just highlight the majority of the structure, and you can see maybe a little bit of a line here, majority of the structure, and then that's pretty much it. Is it a symmetrical triangle? Sure. Okay, fine. Let's entertain that, right? We don't have to be perfect. It's not about being perfect. What we do have to really identify is the liquidity levels, the emotional levels of this chart. One is here. That's an emotional level. Let me get back to my traditional yellow lines and make this a bit thinner. Okay, and then we'll put another one right down here, which I would say is another emotional level. Top and bottom of the range. Now, the reality is, as long as we're in this level, in this range between 17.5 cents to about 10.5 cents, you have to understand that still range-bound price action full of accumulation and distribution. We're battling right now, and we're very low volume battles happening at the current moment. What I do also acknowledge that eventually we need to expand out of here, whether it be to the downside or to the upside. And of course, my bias is going to be to the upside, given to the fact that we are still in a bull run. I just want to be clear out there, guys. I know this might be a bit of a sidetrack, but no metric out there, not total market cap, Bitcoin price, no on-chain metric, none whatsoever, suggests that we are in a bear market cycle at the current moment. Okay, we are not in a bear market yet. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is it could happen, but we're not there yet. So we have to maintain bullish until proven otherwise. And this goes for Plume and many other projects across the space. But what I do want to address is that the momentum at the current moment here on the daily, and also I want to address that the daily is not giving us that much data. Okay, there's not much other than this little flag that's happening right here. However, again, I just want to address one thing, is that this, let me just get a line out here for you. This right here is in an uptrend. This purple line is in an uptrend, which I appreciate. And based on my oscillators here that I use, and of course, if you want to know more information about them, I got links in the description. I like longing every time the volatility comes down here, right? And because we're in an uptrend on momentum. So next time we come down again, and it doesn't mean that we have to come down for a lower low or anything, but we do get a reset in volatility, the same way we got one right here, the same way we got one right here, and the same way we got one right here. The next time we reset, it could be another higher low. That's totally fine. I definitely would like to start be interested in going long here. And the reason being is because the bias is to the upside, given the fact that we're in a bull run. And this consolidation does look like an accumulation for an expansion. This is what these goons are doing here. They're accumulating with these higher highs, no really higher highs. These are higher lows right into here. It's a very symmetrical consolidation, I'll be honest. Okay. And usually it's considered continuation. Continuation structures, because we're coming in from an impulse, it's like a pennant. We're basically penning out here for a continuation to the upside. And that's basically what I'm looking forward to. Now, if we quickly do a measured move, it's usually, the opening of the triangular formation, and then you start looking for 70% towards the apex of the triangular formation, which we're almost there, guys. We're pretty much there, okay? And give or take, it's not an exact measurement. It's an average area, 70%. We're almost there. We could be looking for a breakout, okay? That's the reality. And it also can include a breakout to the downside. I also want to make that very clear. Again, I'm not a fortune teller, but what I can see is the momentum moving upwards. And if we can long every position of strength, which is when you get a full reset on volatility, it will get you in at a bit of a bottom rather than buying a top like we are right now. Right now, we could probably explode out of here. We could probably break out, but then you're a breakout trader, and the risk you're taking here is that we get rejected on these tops or this wick, and we start, or on this horizontal rejection point emotional level, guys. I just want to make that clear. Maybe I'll make it thicker. So we make the importance of this range or these horizontals super important, guys. That's the real resistance. We break above there, we're flying. There's no resistance above, and there's no resistance below. Either way, we have emptiness, weakness above and below, and we're waiting for a decision. Are we moving to the upside? Now, to improve our bullish thesis, look at this. EMAs are facing up, green histogram bars to the upside. I do see a blue expansion coming down at the current moment. It's not a good thing. I'm going to be clear about that. But overall, as you can see, everything is pushing upwards. It could be in the short term that we might come down for a bit of a rollover, but generally speaking, guys, we're still okay here for continuation to the upside. These nice rounded bottoms look pretty good. Now we do have some rounded tops as well. This is why we're really getting a mixture on lower time frames of accumulation and a distribution, and this is why we're going sideways within this range and looking for a clear breakout. Now, the only way you could trade this, I'll be honest, the only way you could trade it is on understanding the range. If you're going to be trading using leverage, if there is, I don't even know if there's futures on this yet, but the reality is the risk that you're taking has everything to do with position size, regardless if it's leverage or not. If you're going to get into a fat position, you're taking risk, regardless if it's leverage or not, okay? The only thing that leverage introduces is a liquidation point, right? You still don't want to make the losses, even if your position is purely funded by your own capital. So the reality is that this is where resistance comes in, and this is where you can get a major rejection to come all the way back down to the bottom of the range. It could happen, guys. We don't know. So what I'm saying here is if we do break out, just put yourself at break even. Make sure that you at least put yourself at break even, because if it does keep on running, great. But if it gets rejected, you don't want to turn a winning trade into a losing trade. And ultimately, you might even want to say, you know, I'll take a bit of profit right here. But based on where we are in this current market, I would say that it would be worth the risk to see if this thing actually breaks out. We're very close to the breakout range. I know you're buying local tops, which means that you're buying into resistance, both diagonal and horizontal, based on the point of control and all of this. I understand the risk that you're taking. This is why I would appreciate to wait to see the volatility get oversold. And maybe I miss out on an opportunity to go long. Maybe I do, or maybe you do. But ultimately, it's better to miss out, especially if you're taking a lot of risk, than to take too much risk and then get wrecked. So what I would do here is this: at this current state, it's not bad to buy, to start DCing on spot. Okay, it's 10%, 20%. If it comes down, buy another 10-20%. If it comes down here, buy a next 20%. So use a 30-30-40 rule. 3 entries, 30 here, 30 here, 40 here, and then your invalidation is right here. Your invalidation is at $10.7, which means if we break below there, we're in a bit of trouble, guys. We're in dip discovery. We don't know where we're going to hold support, and you might want to cut it off right here, and then just wait to see what kind of structure builds below, and in that case, you can decide, you know what, maybe we get a nice structure here, and then we start moving back up again to back test and confirm this breakout point. Because literally, if we break down, we could definitely do one of these: swing failure, come back in, back test in spring, and then keep on going, pick up some bullish bids here, last capitulation. And again, that's the bearish case scenario. Right? Really, the ideal scenario is that we can, buy into here and then maybe break out. Even coming down to this level is super bullish, because why? The bulls are going to buy. People are going to buy this level, and we move to the upside. You get good bids, you get good entries down here. It's bullish. It's still good. If we break below, again, 10.6 cents, that's when things get bearish. And that's when you have to worry. If we come up, back test, and get rejected, that's horrible. That's why you got to buy the bottom of the range. That's why you got to make sure that you average your cost as close as possible to the thick yellow line from a position of strength, because ultimately, if we do get that back test, you can exit with a small loss and say, I'm done. Well, wait for the structure to build, and then I'll get in on the pivot point structure where we get back to the upside when we're ready for a bullish response. That's the thing. The bearish scenario is much more important than the bullish scenario, because from a bullish perspective, we can break out right now. We could break out for the next move and hit about 25 cents. And that's where I would be taking a bit of profit, or at least trailing up my stop loss well into profit. If it continues, great. If it pulls back, okay, fine. At least I lock in some of those gains and move on. Of course, I'm a trader, guys. I'm not here only for long-term investing. And when you're talking about a project that has still a lot to do, I'm a trader. I'm not holding for long-term, personally speaking. Again, my decisions are my own. They're not yours. And you have to really come up with your own convictions. You can hold some for long-term. And again, long-term is also subjective. What does long-term mean? Multi-cycle? Again, that's something that I would really, really think about long and hard, and I would focus on, trying to build a bigger position, multi-cycle positions over multiple cycles, rather than holding throughout the entire one. It's okay to sell at the top of this cycle and reaccumulate plume at the bottom of next cycle, because you'll be able to accumulate much, much more. And of course, if you're bullish, what's the point? What's the issue? None whatsoever. All right, guys, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a massive, massive favor. Slap the like button, guys. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description below. Feel free to join the Discord, guys. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.